Hello, everybody. Today is Tuesday, March 4th, 11 a.m. EST. This is the Kubeflow community meeting, and I'm going to read the CNCF code of conduct briefly just to serve as a reminder for people to engage healthily. We demonstrate empathy and kindness towards other people. Please be respectful of differing opinions, viewpoints, and experiences. Be gracious, accepting of constructive feedback, and accept responsibility and apologize to those affected by our mistakes and learn from the experience. And focus on what is best for the community, not just us as individuals, and use welcoming and inclusive language, please. Thank you, everybody. Let's get started. So we have a pretty packed agenda today. Woohoo! First of all, is there anybody new to the meeting today that wanted to kind of introduce themselves, say a little bit about themselves, what they're working on, how we can be helpful? Yeah. Joseph, please feel free. If you want to hop off mute and say hello.
Yes.
Yep.
Do you see me?
Yeah, hey, Joseph.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I am really new. I am not really involved in some specific task. I am from Red Hat.
Oh,
I
great.
am a developer from Red Hat. I am really interested in the Kubeflow because I think Red Hat is using some component of Kubeflow. I think it will be good for me to follow the community.
Awesome. Welcome,
If you
Joseph.
have some advice how I can help, will be great for me.
Yeah, awesome. Welcome, Joseph. There's quite a number of Red Hatters here, myself included.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so you're in good company. Yeah, we can definitely talk, and we invite you to join the Slack channel, and there we can definitely go over some options of how you can engage the community and how we can work on some stuff. So yeah, welcome.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
so anybody else that wanted to introduce themselves? Okay, well, first announcement is and big thanks to the steering committee. We finally agreed on a process for how projects can join the Kubeflow ecosystem, and so you can see the documentation here. The short version that I'll mention is that this is how the process for a project to apply. The decision is not as structured. That's up to the Kubeflow steering committee, and it's going to be made on a case-by-case basis. We don't expect projects to be joining like at mass, but we do want to have a process for projects to join, and so I wanted to make sure that folks here are aware of it, so that if there are related projects that they think make sense for the ecosystem, they're welcome to kind of apply. Cool. So Andre, did you want to go? Actually, any questions about that?
Yeah, I'm just like wondering, kind of, do we have any kind of objections or, positive, negative feedback for this process from the community on this call? Maybe anything, you want to say to the KSC and other members of the community about it? Because I think we've been discussing this for almost like a year and a half, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, actually, I'm happy to share a little bit more context about it, right? And I think we can open up the PR, and that might provide a little more clarity. I think I originally created this in August to talk about, well, how can a project join the Kubeflow ecosystem? This was with respect to Feast. There were other interests as well, not just Feast, and so there was a bunch of activity. We went back and forth on different options, and so we revamped it quite a bit. And so I think like the devil's in the details, but the detail is really in the application process itself outlined here. And a lot of it is about providing structured information and maybe a document to complement that, to provide information about the project, its usage, how it can be impactful for both Kubeflow and the project itself. I think that the spirit of it is that the AI ML ecosystem is changing pretty dramatically. We want to make sure that we're able to benefit in the sense of not adding too much tech debt, because more projects is more code and more maintainer responsibility. But we also want to acknowledge that the world is changing, and we want to make sure that we're a part of that change, and adding, an AI ML components that could really solve the critical needs of our end users. And that looks like different things for different use cases, right? And so that's kind of how we framed this. And fortunately, I had a lot of feedback from different members of the community that we were able to incorporate it and outline it here. So yeah, that's kind of my experience with it, how we got there. Andre, was there anything you wanted to add?
No, I think it's fine. Again, like if anyone wants to give a feedback or kind of suggest something different.
Yeah.
So again, this process probably won't be perfect initially.
Yeah.
But at least like we want to start with something, right? And we already see some sort of success story for like Spark operator model registry. So we see kind of a need to have this moving forward.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Anyway,
couldn't see it there, by the way. Is there like a requirement to have multiple companies contributing or something, like diversity of backing?
That's one of the metrics that we look at, right? And so there's a whole list of metrics and items in there. I mean, I can pull it up again.
Like, because the only thing that I'm obviously concerned about is making sure we don't end up adopting a project that ends up not being maintained. It's not about the vendor neutrality so much. That is important, but it's because it's more about like, okay, is there a reason, like, can we see logically that there's a reason this will continue to be maintained by someone and preferably multiple groups of people?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, number of maintainers and their affiliations, releases, contributors, users, forks, package installations, downloads. So we do have that as a metric. And again, that's the application. And so the decision that's being made by the KSC would take that into account, right? So that it wouldn't over-index on homogeneity.
Also, like I just want to say one last thing. Like since George, you're here, I mean, I already kind of asked CNCF to provide feedback, and we already discussed this initially. But I would love you to get some sort of like guidance for us to how we should communicate, or should we really communicate with CNCF in terms of those new process for us, right? And especially on the trademark guidelines, right?
Yeah.
This will be really helpful for us to understand. Thank you, George. We can move
on. Oh, Josh, I think you went on mute for a second. Is there anything you wanted to add?
This is great, guys. I mean, look, there's no easy answer here. I think Matthew's comments about how to turn down projects is something that often gets overlooked. We get enthusiasm in adding new things. So I think it's a good thing to consider. And it's also good just to have a process. So the people that are starting stuff or wanting to add in stuff, that they understand what the expectations are from the community. As for the CNCF, we do need to be cognizant and aware of any legal liabilities we might be putting them in by adding new projects in. But I think most everything has got some type of license that's probably not going to cause anybody too much heartache. But there's always the logo and other types of IP that we have to be careful about as well. So this is great news, and I hope everybody can understand that it's hard for the KFC to make these type of solutions, and they may have to modify things as they go, but the goal is to grow the community in a logical way.
Yeah. Agreed. Thank you, Josh. Andre, did you want to talk a little bit about the blueprint update?
Yeah, maybe I can spend 10 minutes, maybe even less.
Do you want to share your screen, or do you want me to
just quickly share my screen. So yeah, over the last, I think, 2 months, we've been working on this cap, actually enabling the fine-tuning recipes for LLMs using the Kubeflow Trainer API. So we started this, like this was one of our goals once we kind of like established this new project in 2024, last year. So the goal was to provide a quick and easy way for users to do fine-tuning on Kubernetes. And we kind of try to build them some sort of template approach and a set of recipes with the community support. so they could quickly use this recipe to fine-tune their favorite LLMs. So the approach we decided to take using the TorchTune library initially. So TorchTune is the library to, essentially like abstractions on top of the Torch run, which has a set of recipes you can reuse to fine-tune LLMs using the various configurations. Like TorchTune supports different models like Mistral, Qian, Phi, Llama. Also, like they constantly adding supports for new models, and they also like adding support for distributed training, which is kind of more relevant for Kubernetes. So those guys are really interested to see how we can, use the Kubernetes to test their framework. So our approach was to actually leverage their, like TorchStone library. And the goal is for us is to see how we can, construct the recipes for users so they can quickly, kick off those jobs. So the final like structure, just for anyone interested, will look like this. So basically, we will support initially just a few models, just to see how it goes, and like basically those models will contains the kind of default configuration, which requires to fine tune, but user can always override it using the Python configurations. Like for example, if I want to apply LoRa, QLoRa, Dora, or like any other, like when I do full fine tuning, or like they want to do fine tuning with different LoRa techniques. And also we like as an example I can share like like how it looks like. Basically, user will be able to, let me show you quickly here. Yes, it looks like this. So basically, like we again have is one API, which part of trainer client, and then this API, what user just needs to do, they just need to specify the location for the dataset they want to use. Like for example, like alpaca dataset, and then they want to they can specify the fine tuning configuration, like what kind of GPU they have, like for example, if GPU supports B floating point or just a floating point, or they can specify batch size, learning rate, number of epochs, and LoRa configuration like here in the path config. And then we will kick off this job for them on Kubernetes cluster, so they don't need really to worry about like how to configure other parameters. So this is like how user experience will look like. And again, like we try to see how to improve this configuration, especially how to make sure the configuration of the TorchTune side actually compatible with configuration on our SDK side. So this transition will be very simple and easy to understand from the user standpoint, without even need to learn like what set of configuration TorchTune has. So we just provide a set of knobs they can trigger, they can modify to kick off those distributed fine-tuning tasks. Any questions? Anything to
So is this like, because obviously these TorchTune things, as we said last time, are mainly around Slurm. Have you like made an alternative to TorchTune, or what's happening here?
Yeah, TorchTune using Slurm for distributed training. So because most of their guidance using Slurm for DDP, for like if you want to have multi-node, right? So for us, like we can still use the TorchTune. Let me show you.
Like library or?
Yeah, we can still use TorchTune library in their recipes, but like we don't use Slurm, we directly use Kubernetes primitives for this, right? So basically the idea is to they provide different recipes for every model, and every model they have distributed recipe and the recipe with a single device. So distributed means this recipe can be run on multiple nodes, and the single recipe, which means like this recipe can run distributed training but in a single node. So for all multi-node they use Slurm because they cannot actually kick off the PyTorch across multiple nodes without this library, right? And for us, we're using our orchestration to run these recipes across multiple PyTorch nodes. Does make sense?
So we support those distributed ones.
Yeah, and we also support the single one. So because sometimes, for example, like if you have H100 and if you don't really want to do multi-node, you have like maybe 4 GPUs. Because like I think this is important to understand, like it is always will be faster to do single node rather than doing multi-node if you have a capability like enough compute, right? So you have a like very large node which support like 8 H100. It doesn't like really make sense for you to do multi-node because single node will be just faster, right? Because of interconnects and how those devices get connected between each other. So you should go multi-node as long as your compute is not like sufficient to do like to have enough GPUs for you. It is like where Slurm come to the picture or Kubernetes come to the picture, right? Does make sense. Does make sense
So
to
have
you?
we made like a compatibility layer? Is that what it means? Or is this something that we're going to upstream, or we're going to maintain this, or what?
Yeah, so again, it's up to the user to decide what they want to use, right? So some of those recipes supports like distributed training on multiple nodes. Some of those recipes, like they still don't support multi-node. So for recipes which supports multi-node, will allow users to actually use, number of nodes parameters here, right, in the train API. So in the train, right? Quickly show you.
And so how are you handling things like locality? You know, like when you've got
Yep.
multiple nodes, how do you handle that?
Yeah, you mean like device placement, right?
Yeah, like if you've
exclusive.
got two, like if you're doing remote memory or something, right? They need to be kind of close together for it to make sense.
Yeah. So we haven't explored this yet. I know job sets support exclusive, what is it, like additional device placement? Like, you can make sure like your nodes are kind of co-locate between each other. So, like the access, like you kind of selecting the appropriate nodes on the cluster. So you make sure like you have like the high throughput, right? So this is kind of out of scope of this in general. This is the main problem for any distributed training, right?
On
I
Kubernetes.
know that,
Yeah.
I know on the job set you can do so, and they've done some investigation, like some sort of label placement. But the problem with this, every public cloud provider has a different
Yes.
different way how they design the nodes, right? And different labels. I know Kubernetes community discussing like how to unify it, but I think it's still kind of unclear
Is
overall,
that
right?
something that we should participate in, is kind of what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think we should. I mean, I hope, we definitely should continue discussion with batch working group specifically. Like, I would love if some of the community members have any kind of challenges or ideas where we should be focused on, we should discuss it more. But it's a common problem, basically, how to place those, those workers on appropriate node, right? So they can be
It's kind of
co-located.
breaking the idea of Kubernetes, right? Kubernetes was never designed with the idea of specific
Yeah,
placement
yeah,
other
yeah,
than relative placement. I guess you could do things
yeah,
like within a rack, but that's not that useful because how do you know
yeah,
which rack to request?
yeah. It's a good point. Yeah, that's why, again, like the goal for us to migrate to job set was so we can, use the same primitives in
Have we
our.
migrated to job set?
Yeah. We're already using job sets.
Okay,
So in
cool.
the trainer, right? So this definitely will help us to, address this problem. Yeah, but it's again for the single node fine tuning, they're still relevant, right? I don't like assume many people use Kubernetes for single node, but there are, still many users who use like Kubernetes for like main ML platform, right? And they still have it, they're required to do the fine tuning of those models, right? So this also will be useful for them. Yeah.
I guess there's the other question of whether we should have like a Slurm operator. I mean, there's obviously this big debate as to whether Slurm will be still around or whether it will be orchestrated on Kubernetes. And then but that mostly uses kube, those kind of runs. Anyway, these are very technical questions. I just wonder
Yeah.
if we should have a
Yeah.
Slurm operator in part of Kubeflow is what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. Let's continue this discussion. I know, I mean, we need to understand like whether there is any value to use Slurm on top of Kubernetes, right? Because I know there is some, like initiatives there, and from ShedMD company who actually maintains Slurm as well, but we need to understand like whether it is useful for end users. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on, Francisco.
Awesome. So I wanted to give a quick shout out to Tarek. Thank you for writing this incredible blog post and added it here, synthetic data generation with Kubeflow pipelines, which is really great. And I wanted to also say thank you to everybody who helped review and help him to create that blog post. I think that's great. We definitely want to continue to highlight, great work that teams or folks are doing to our blog. Please feel free to take whatever demo you put together or PR you put together, toss it into ChatGPT and have it spit out a blog post for you, and then we'll publish it. I think like more content about the awesome work that we've all been doing is better from an SEO perspective, but also in getting the word out of like, hey, here's how Kubeflow can be really impactful to your use cases. I do the very same for Feast and a lot of the vector search work that we've been doing, and so I think it tends to be good for end users because they're just not always aware. So that's the plug there. The other plug is Andre and I had the privilege of presenting the Kubeflow SDK at the CNCF AI working group on Friday. videos coming forthcoming for that. And you know, I actually shared some items about Llama Stack in particular. I know that was an area that some folks, especially on the Red Hat side, were particularly interested in. And so I shared some opinions there. I can talk more about that probably later, but I think it was just exciting to talk about Kubeflow, the SDK, how it kind of, we think it can fit in the generative AI narrative. Yeah. Any question? Anything else you wanted to add, Andre, on that?
No, I think it's great. Yeah, I mean, I was happy to share this with broader community. I think again, the same question come up. That's, I guess, Matthew, you raised the concern about, you know, how we can make sure we synchronize all those dependencies.
Yeah.
You know, like release the control plane. I think this is a valid question. I hope we can solve it as a community. Yeah, and definitely improve you know, like the release life cycle and the schedule between the, you know, client side and control plane side. I think like as long as we agree on some kind of limitations and as long as we be opinionated what we're planning to support, I think we should be fine. But let's definitely continue to discuss this in the CAP.
I just think whatever we need to do, we just need to agree on the purpose of it. Like, and if we agree on the purpose of it, then it will become clear where the features should be. Like, who is the user of this? I'm
That's
not
right.
saying we discuss that now. I'm just saying whoever that
Yeah,
is, that's what we should figure
yeah.
out.
And the goal is very clear, right? I mean, all of the folks we're talking about, they're super exciting about this and about the experience, right? It's all about experience. From the technical standpoint, it's hard to implement, right? But if we worry about experience, like many folks actually like what we try to give them, right? And in addition to, you know, like to KFP, right? Because many people think, you know, start with Kubeflow by using KFP because KFP is the most popular project today, right? And in KFP, you have a clear experience on how to interact with their APIs. So if you try to, you know, like make this experience sort of consistent or at least like simple to use, I think we will be in a good shape in terms of how Kubeflow can be used, right? Especially from ML user persona perspective, right?
Awesome. Cool, Matthew, did you want to give an update on Notebooks 2.0?
I just wanted to just highlight it as always because people seem to appear in the meetings whenever I call it out. So it's always good to have more contributors. So Notebooks 2.0, we're still cooking along with it. It's not going to be in 1.10, obviously. We're just still in the progress of releasing it and making it. We're focused right now on the front end and the back end. There've been some changes to some of the features and things, which is I won't go through now, but it's definitely coming along, and there's a lot of people working on it. And so if you happen to be a front end, or really the kind of people, the developers that we really need the most of are usually around. Well, actually, there's just a lot of people involved now. So if you just are an experienced developer who has experience with Go and maybe React and things, and if you've got time to work on stuff, or maybe you're a designer even, like who can write draw mockups and things, it's always good to have more people involved. So if you're looking for a place to contribute, we have meetings every Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific. We also have a Slack channel, notebooks, Kubeflow notebooks. So if even if I can't find you a specific task, I'm sure that we can find you something as a group. So it takes a bit of time to get onboarded, but other than that, it's good. I just wanted to highlight that. So read that issue if you want to learn about why Notebooks 2.0 is happening. You don't have to open it, just it's there. And if you want to help out, please message us on Slack in the Notebooks channel.
Awesome. Cool. Madi and Ramesh, did you want to go?
So first of all, if any community members do not know, we got access to Google Summer of Code. Yeah. So look for, obviously, you guys will be, thank you for all the mentors who already signed up. I see some folks still have not signed up. If you have signed up last year, you still need to go log into GSOC website and agree for the 2025 program details and their terms and conditions so that it will show up in my dashboard for you to add it as a mentor. So please do that. If you are a new mentor this year, yeah, contact me on Slack. Give me your email. I'll invite you. I think the specific questions being asked is, the ideas between 7 and 12. We put in, I believe, Andre, you did those, I believe, right? Maybe we didn't put in enough details. So yeah, please, if you can take some time to, add more details, that will save you a lot of headache in terms of people trying to reach the mentors and asking for more details on what they need to be doing there. So please do that. That's about it from my side.
Awesome.
If Mehdi is online and yeah, if he's got anything,
Yeah,
any.
if you can hear me, sorry, I'm in the street.
Mhm.
And my specific question is, how is the selection process like? Like, do you have any interviews, or you also
Yeah,
depend on the proposals?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So the contributors would be able to, as a contributor, you are expected to write a proposal for a given. You're supposed to write a time plan or your proposal to how you're going to be implementing the proposals that are listed on the project page, right? So when we collect all those things. Actually, GSOC, Google Summer of Code folks collect all those things, and they give links to all those documents. As mentors and organization members, we'll go through all the proposals. We'll throw out anything that doesn't, we don't like it, and the proposals that are interesting, we calling. Last year what we did is we called in for interviews on those proposals from the students. Think there is at least 15 minutes we give for each student. We may select up to 4 students in each proposal, each project to interview, or maybe more, depending upon what mentors on that project are really looking for. If there are more proposals, more good proposals, we have to choose one from in the number of proposals we get. Last year, just to give you a perspective, out of 10 projects, we got 250 proposals, so about 25 in each, but we have to bring it down to so that we can make use of our time properly. So if you are writing proposals, don't put garbage in. If you put garbage in, it gets thrown out. Not even we will not even entertain it, right? So make sure you write a proposal that is decent. Try to see if mentor can the mentors listed on the project can give you more information if you are missing that. There may be go to the components from now till the end of the when the proposals are due. I highly encourage, I'm going to keep saying this every meeting, go to the community meetings that component has every week or every other week, like just like if it is a proposal from notebooks, just like how Matthew was talking about, he's got a meeting every Thursday at 8 p.m. Pacific. Go to that meeting, see if they can give you any more details on it, or ask them on the Slack in the Kubeflow contributors channel. Uh, Make sure you write a decent proposal. That's the one of the basic tenets of what we are asking from all the contributors. Uh, so based on those, we will call you for interviews and we make a selections from that.
Yeah, I just want to like Ramesh, thank you for this. Like I think last year we also measured the number of contributions, right? Students have made before we accept them. So I think like I mean, if others have the same opinion, maybe we should also take this as a measure, right? Point. So even before GSOC, you should contribute to different Kubeflow components because this will be part of application, right? Don't know if you want to make this to the website to make sure like folks include their contributions to the proposals.
Very good call out, and yeah, thank you for bringing that one up. Forgot to mention that. Yeah, if you are already a member, we do give preference. That's what we are saying.
Ramesh, do we need to update website to say that they should include a number of contributions they've made in their proposals? Like, what do you think?
I think
So
that's a
I
great
think we should
idea.
just link that. We should probably just link the guide that GSOC published for how to write a proposal. It seems to cover pretty much everything that we would want to know, because it's like it's in the same way you're applying to a job, kind of. You're literally getting paid. So like it's like we just need to know who you are, what you know how to do, and whether we should pick you. Think about it from our perspective. Like, we want to know that you're going to be able to successfully deliver the project that you've proposed. And so think about what we would need to know to think, yeah, that person's the best for that.
Give your experience, give your contributions.
That's listed on there. So I think we should probably, I think it's a really good idea. I mean, I know that when they actually apply, they will get linked to that page because they haven't been able to apply it. But maybe just so that people can prepare early, maybe we should link that on the website under the steps section.
Yeah, thank you for your detailed response. And may I ask 2 short questions, if it's fine?
Sure.
Yeah, I lost the connection for a few seconds. Can you quickly say how is the interview like? Like, is it, as Matthew said, is it like a job interview? Because I'm a student and I don't think that I'm really capable to do a job interview right now. But
Depends on what you're. Don't be afraid. It's the purpose of this is just general advice for interviews. The purpose of an interview, if someone has chosen to interview you, is that they want to give you the job. They want to give someone the job, not just the job. In this case, they want to have a proposal, be accepted, and succeed. So the interviewer is usually on your side. No one is interviewing no one is chosen out of. We get thousands of applications. No one is going to be like, yeah, I'm going to interview that person just to make their life suck. No, they want you to succeed because they're like, you're probably the one. That's what they're thinking. So we're not going to be expecting you to get on a coding whiteboard.
Technical
No, we're not going to be like
questions.
well, some interviewers might choose to do that, but I don't think they will. Like, we're not going to be a Google-style coding interview on a whiteboard. That's not what we're talking about. It's more like it's going to be justifying that, yeah, you are the person who wrote the proposal, that you actually have the skills that you said, understanding, getting to know you. At the point, like, the purpose of the interview is to see whether we want to work together, because we'll be working together for months, right? And whether you'll be able to successfully deliver the project. So it's like, if you get to the point of being selected, and trust me, there's going to be a lot of applications, so put a lot of work into your proposals. Then an interview it should be fine. Just put.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example to their, to Matthew's there, Mahdi, is last year we did see quite a few people did not think much through the proposal at all and used, let's say ChatGPT or something, and to put proposal together, right? That wasn't very thought out. They put it up because they probably are time crunch, whatever, right? But only when it looked very good, but only when we talked to them in asking about, hey, can you explain what's your thought process behind this proposal? We found that that's not, they didn't have any clue how they're going to approach, right? So it's about a personality match, whether between what you proposed and whether is it going to work, or how are you going to deliver that, right? It's just making sure that's about it. It's nothing. We completely understand that you are a student, and that's why this mentorship and student is to improve your skills, right? Improve your skills as well as
I agree with you.
Ask for the contributions as an open source organization in the Kubeflow too. So don't be afraid.
Just to add on this, I mean, maybe some mentors have different approach, but for us, what was successful, the folks who've been involved in the community before GSOC, they kind of like, continued to work with us even after GSOC. So I think like the most important thing of this GSOC for you to understand what is open source, right? And why open source is important. This is why, again, like back to my point, if you start working with mentors and community before the process, that will be easier for us to also understand like what you can do, how you work, understand like whether you understand the project, right? Because like for me, maybe like others have different opinion, but maybe you should you know, not really focus like 100% of the proposal, but more focusing on the project by itself, right? Because if you understand like what actually Kubeflow is like and what you will work on, that will help you to, you know, structure your proposal clearly, right? Because we're not going to present this proposal to, you know, like some other folks, right? It's just for us to understand, like you understand what is Kubeflow, right? What projects you will work on, what things needs to be updated, and how you communicate with the community beforehand to actually start this project. Because again, I think I mentioned it through the last call, but design for many use cases much more important than actual the code, right? Because get alignment with the community takes a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
But it's not like different folks have different approaches to mentor their students, but
Agreed, Andre.
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of keep us moving. Thank you, Madi. Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you, Andre. Thank you, Matthew, for all that guidance. You suck.
Sorry, may I ask my last question because I said 2 questions?
Yeah, it's your last question, but I do want to keep us on the agenda. So go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. If you see, I've asked about ideas from number 7 to 12. Would it be possible to define some acceptance criteria or user stories? So then we can write that our design or ideas or go through that idea and write a decent proposal if it's possible.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna defer to Matthew's response here. No need to open up a cap. Your proposal should target one of the project areas listed on our website. But we can discuss this further async, Madi. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I think I can.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
feel free to start a thread and we can discuss in Slack.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I also put it up the top as well. My 2 responses up the top where most proposals link to related issues. Please explore those before asking questions, obviously, because sometimes we haven't put enough information on the website. Yep, but there might be discussions there. And if there are discussions, contribute to them, ask questions. If there's really unclear, like if it's a really unspecified project, just say like, wait, what if I was asked pointed, useful questions? And then if that doesn't work, then start reaching out on the Slack to the contributors who maintain those components and or go to their meetings. That's kind of my recommendation.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Madi. And thank you for all the time you've been putting in there. Cool. So let's get to it. I think we can try to move quickly because I also want to make sure that we check in on the release status. Cool. Matthew,
Do you want to do the release now? Do you want to do the release now? Maybe we should.
Yeah, we can do a quick release update. Valentina, do you have a release update for us?
Yes, absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Hey everyone. So I'm part of the release team. We are providing a status on Kubeflow 1.10. Yesterday we released RC, we cut the release for RC2. So there is the link there if you are planning, if you want to know more about it. Right now we are also there are a couple of things that we are working on. So now we are waiting on the distributions testing. We also invite everyone on the community to, help us with testing this version. Additionally to this, the plan is next week to release RC3. We are planning to include any bug fixes that we are finding after testing. Additionally, the image container registry changes that Julius, I think, will be talking about it, but basically is the Docker registry is changing their policies from pulling the container images to limit those. So we need to change the container images in order to avoid any issues. So, so that's the plan. In terms of the final release date, we do have concerns right now, and the final release date could be affected. At this time, we don't have enough information to say if we need to change it. So we need to wait 1 week, 2 weeks in order to learn more about if bugs are found, having more feedback on the testing that is being held right now, in order to learn more about if we are making that final release date or not. Additionally, the working groups are working on the documentation, and we are actively working on the documentation as well. There is a blogging process on highlighting the features of this release. So please reach out to toward PM. If you are tagged on any of the pull requests that are part of this release, such as the image change, so please prioritize these, help us with testing, and then with any documentation. If you want to have any of the features highlighted from your component, please reach out. And I think that's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
And thank you everybody for awesome work there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks everyone who's been contributing to this. Thank you.
Julius, Matthew, did you guys want to go?
Yeah, so Julius, obviously, and I'm not, I mean, like, so I'm only here just because I've got a lot of images that need to be moved in the components that I maintain. But Julius, what do we have, like, what's your current thinking about the plan? I know you've said a couple of things back and forth, you know, whether we use ECR, GCR, various things. I'm thinking GCR for my components, but what are you thinking? GHCR.
Yeah, I think having GHCR as default for self-built images is a good idea. But we still have a few images, for example, Python, or some other basic, really popular images from the official Docker Hub library that we use also to build our own images. And I think to have them up to date, to get the security updates, we can use the mirror from ECR, for example, this public gallery where they mirror the most popular images from Docker Hub.
I mean, I guess we don't know what because I think this will be a problem for everyone, you know, like these from images in the builds on Docker Hub. So I imagine that probably what will happen is the CNCF will probably give us a license to like log, you know, a licensed account to log in with so that we can build, I bet. But I understand, like you're saying that you're worried that we're going to get rate limited while we're building the images, right?
No, that's
Huh?
That's a smaller problem. That's something each working group can fix somehow. It's one part. Yeah, you could get rate limited there. But even this is something you can fix with a Docker Hub account. But I think it's even more interesting for the users that install Kubeflow that get rate limited. So they have a limit of typically 10 pulls per hour. So I think target is to get below 10 images from Docker Hub.
But what images
the
do we
remaining
have?
ones out.
What ones would we have? Because if we move everything, what ones are you talking about?
If you move, for example, Istio was using the ones from Docker Hub. Now I'm switching over with the help of someone else to the official GCR images for Istio because they released there. Or some other components are on Quay now. Some other components are, I think, and there are many more registries, yeah. For Manifest, I think I can migrate most of them, except for Kserve. This will be interesting. You can migrate the Kubeflow notebooks, Kubeflow dashboard ones to GHCR. Khatib probably should migrate as well. And then we probably already have less than 10 images remaining. For pipelines, I also migrated the last one, I think, Python to this clone of the public Docker library. And I think we should be good if we implement all of that.
Which one? How are we using a base Python image in pipelines? What do you mean in the built pipelines, or do you mean as part of the backend?
As part of the backend, when it runs on a cluster, the pipeline's profile controller, for example.
Oh, that piece. Okay, yeah, that piece. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we also switched it to decorator. That's another topic. But yeah, I think hopefully if I get this Istio PR merged, and you migrate the images, we might be safe. If Khatib does so as well, we should be safe.
Is Istio an official source now, and are they using GCR or GHCR?
It's GCR that they owe Istio minus release. It seems to be the official one. I think it's one of the official ones next to Docker Hub.
Yeah, I don't. If I was going to bet on which one remains free and infinite pools for the longest, I would bet on Microsoft. You know, GitHub for the short term. Long term, I don't think any of them will probably remain free, but I think that's something that we'll have to cross when we come to it. I mean, Microsoft seems to be willing to fit the bill for a lot of stuff already right now with GitHub. You know, runners for everyone. So I hope that means that they're at least willing to distribute images until they're the only one left. but we'll have to see. My question then is, do we push to Docker and GHCR, or do we just migrate fully to GHCR?
I'm totally fine if you just use the GHCR, but if it makes you happy, you can push to both. No one is stopping you there.
And in that vein, because I worry that some people might see, especially for the container images, like the notebooks ones, might see the old images and then think that we've not pushed the new ones. You know what I mean? That's my only worry.
Yeah, and it's a valid
Like,
concern. So that's an argument for removing it, and it's also fine. I think that's something that most working groups can decide by themselves, or do we need a general decision there?
But there's also another question around, should we try and have an established, okay, so for people who already have deployments of Kubeflow that are using a lot of Docker registries, especially ones who are not following distributions which can help them out, we should probably have an explanation of how to set up a Docker account in your cluster. You know what I mean? And inject the credentials, because it's a little bit painful. Like I've got it in DeployKF, we do have a way of doing it with Kyverno, which just kind of injects it to every thing, because there's like 3 ways you can authenticate a Docker pull on Kubernetes. You can do it, obviously it's through some kind of pass-through cache, but I'm not going to include that. You could also do it by hard coding in the pod spec image pull secret, which means the secret has to exist in every namespace that has that pod. You can also do it by service account association, which again requires per namespace. So maybe what we should do is have a script, maybe a Kyverno example, or maybe something, whatever, that that says, okay, if you've got an existing Kubeflow cluster, whatever you've used to deploy it, manifest maybe, this is where this is a perfect example of okay, what level of support do the manifests have? This is why I really think something that we need to agree on. But okay, maybe we need to publish a blog post at least that explains what it means.
Do we know what other community are doing? Like everyone doing their own thing? Kubernetes, Argo, Tecton, I mean, Istio.
I don't think there's been any. This came pretty recently, this announcement. So I don't think there's been a unified. And communities, as you well know, are very separate orgs. We're one of the bigger ones because we're like 20 different projects in one. But the CNCF,
Maybe,
yeah.
any CNCF guidelines? I mean, any folks here on the call who just want to give us a guidelines what others are doing? I would love to understand how others actually solve this problem, right? Because I understand we're a big community, but we're probably not the biggest from the user standpoint perspective, right?
So I've seen 2 things that people have done. One is this torrent style distributed image distribution on your Kubernetes cluster. There's I forgot the name of the app, but there's an open source CNCF project for that. But that doesn't solve the problem. I think we need to just explain to people how to solve the immediate problem of my existing cluster doesn't work anymore.
So you're probably talking about older releases of Kubeflow that are still existing. For example, 1.9.1. That might be affected at some point in time. And yes, I think for this we could make a blog post or so. This makes sense.
Maybe just a blog post that explains. Also, we don't know what's actually going to happen on that day, right? Because also it's IP address driven, and IP addresses you might some IP addresses might never be able to pull a Docker Hub again because of the way that overloading works with IP addresses. So, because 10 per hour, someone else might have exceeded that if you're on a carrier grade NAT IP.
Yeah, company networks.
Yeah, especially a company one. That's an example, yeah. Anyway, so in the short term, I agree. Let's just try and standardize on GHCR. There's one question I have around. There's one KFP question for KFP people. Again, this is something that I would patch in DeployKF with Kyverno, mutating the pods in real time. But a lot of people use those base Docker Python images in their pipelines, and now those pipelines are going to stop running. That's where I'm kind of saying we need to maybe the pipelines community needs to show an example of. Maybe we can add it to the pipelines profile controller or something,
Yeah, pipelines profile controller edited. I think I also have to change the MySQL images from no, they are on GCR. But yeah, we could switch all of them to the public gallery from ECR, for example.
No, but one thing is people will have compiled their workflows already, so they can't change the image now. So it's more They either need to have an authorized Docker account on their cluster, and the problem is because Kubeflow is spread across many namespaces, unlike other projects, that means we need to push those secrets into every namespace.
But
Each
then
profile.
you mean something like at runtime replacement of images.
And it's worse than that because you actually have to also inject it as image pool secret. You might be, I don't think, I need to check. Is there a way to set a default image pool secret for all pods in a namespace? I don't think there is. It's.
But can you raise your concern in the issue that Julius? I think this is a valid point. I think we should talk about it before make the migration. Maybe you should raise this in this manifest thread and we can continue discussion.
Yeah, this is a Kubeflow pipelines really affects the most because it's like compiled pipelines. Even we can't control what users have used. They could have used anything, but we just need to explain to them. It's a problem that everyone's going to need to solve, and we might as well have people know that they need to solve it before the day if they know they're not going to be able to migrate before then to the other registries.
But that's completely orthogonal to our efforts for the new release, Andre. So we still need to migrate to GHCR.
But maybe we should have a manifest for the Kubeflow pipeline, sorry, the pipeline's profile controller, like an overlay, which just says, hey, add in, but that still doesn't solve the problem unless we also add a feature to KFP to inject a pull secret into the pod. And maybe we should.
But probably
You know what I mean?
isn't that out of, yeah, but is this maybe already too technical or out of scope for this call?
It probably is, yeah. I'm just worried because this is going to be a problem. And the problem is really the only solution I can see is something like a webhook mutator like Kyverno. You know? But yeah.
I'm all in for Kyverno in Kubeflow, but yeah, that's.
I don't think it should be in Kubeflow. I think that's, I don't think that's a good idea, but I think it should be something that we explain how to use. Anyway, okay, sorry. Hopefully we've talked a bit too much there. Julius, you wanted to remove unmaintained distributions. I just wanted to highlight that you'd raised that pull request. What's the status on that? Is that a KSC thing that hasn't happened yet, or?
I think 2 versions have been upgraded for Canonical and the AKS version. And then at least the ones that are really old, for example, Kubeflow 1.6 or Kubeflow 1.7, like users get a really bad experience and a lot of CVEs and security problems trying to install them and really outdated documentation because this is 3 years old or so from 2022. I think these ones make a lot of sense for me. And also explaining even in a stronger manner that we have distributions which cover EKS or AWS, AKS, and so on really well. Maybe even emphasize this more. So right now the PR is about removing 2 very old distributions that I'm unmaintained for, I think, 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, and my only concern is, as the discussion we always have whenever we propose this, because it gets proposed constantly, especially regarding Amazon, is that we don't want to confuse users, which you've already said, that we do support Amazon still. Someone supports Amazon still, so I mean, the various distributions. And then the other thing is that once we remove it from the website, those websites on the public internet still exist. So when people type Amazon Kubeflow, they're probably still going to get to that result. Of course, us unlisting them might lower their page rank. I don't know, but it's just something to think.
So from my perspective, we should postpone it until we finalize these points around including companies in the front page. Let's really discuss this in the KSC meeting and also ask community for the feedback, because we should definitely have a page to explain that those companies using Kubeflow, and it's including Amazon, Azure, and VMware, and it should be in the front page. So I just don't want to confuse people that, AWS don't really use Kubeflow components.
Yeah, I mean,
But at the same
Amazon, the
time,
company, definitely uses it, but then Amazon Web Services doesn't officially involve themselves anymore. You know, that's what I was saying about using versus selling.
So that is why saying like trusted by what Argo is doing maybe makes sense, but we can find better wording.
And again, and my other question for you, Andre, is do we want to list what components they use, or just say they use Kubeflow? Because it's
No, that doesn't matter. I mean, in general, Kubeflow ecosystem, right?
Yeah, I think unambiguously it's the latter. Kubeflow ecosystem is sufficient. I don't think we would probably need to qualify which component. Like that's a nice to have, but we want larger user base again. I actually have to drop. So if you want to stay on the call, please feel free to continue. Thank you, everybody. Happy Tuesday.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you. So I think just one thing, like in terms of this runners discussion, like again, we have access to large runners. So if anyone just want to get access, let us know in the issue. We can enable the large runners for other components as well.
So you're talking about in GitHub Actions running on the Kubeflow org. Are these paid or are
Yeah.
these like from are
Yeah,
these from
the
CNCF?
CNCF paying for it because we have enterprise account.
I assume there's no GPU runners.
No, no GPUs yet. We're working with Oracle folks to see if we can do GPUs as well.
Awesome. I'll
But
stop
this
the
is still in
recording.
progress.
Yeah. For now, is there anyone you want to say in the final thing? If not, thanks for coming. It's after the time of the meeting, so I'll stop the recording for now. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you.